Yeah, it was all right though.
You
Yeah,
noticed that, right?
yeah. He was sort of on the
He was on.
he was teeter tottering. So
No, what you're picking up from that is the indoctrination that they have.
how bad they're under it.
Yeah. How badly they're under.
Yeah.
But it seems like they don't. He's getting a better understanding of this.
Well, let's get started and then we'll continue that discussion. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. His holy prophet. Nationality. Islam. Prophet warns all Muslims governors to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans, it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive the reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed that you would be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam. So as I was watching the thing go down just now, as part of what I wanted to do was talk about our interactions with other, whether it's nations, religions, whatever. And then based on that, what could we do better? What maybe should be avoided when dealing with them? Because it seems like, based on the outcome, it seems like, the um, the common message that Moors are the ones with superior knowledge is real, right? Because I brought back, I was thinking about how, um, under the rule of the Moors, what were the rulers doing as far as their spirituality, religion, whatever? Because if under the Moors, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism was able to be practiced, then the people who were ruling might not have been one of those three religions, or it might have been all of them, as being able to interact with all these different nations, religions, or whatever. So it appeared as, in the end, that he got out of the trying to convince us that we got to be going to the mosque and all that, to we need to just sit down and just So I just so whoever was here that witnessed, I just want to get your perspectives on dealing with different religions, as Moors, engaging them, what we should talk about, what we shouldn't talk about, and based on that interaction, what was good and what could we maybe work on with regard to engaging other nations.
I would say that to know their religion too, like even talk about, because it's all one, right? There's similarities in all, like, it all came out of Islam. The beginning was Islam, so they all took parts and made their own. It all goes back to Islam. So just knowing their, Quran, like how the brothers were here, like having better knowledge of their stuff so we can, these interactions happen. We just
Islam.
Pull certain sections Islam. Pull certain sections out of their Quran and say, it's like how brother was saying. Certain find similarities.
Yeah.
So they're not as confused. So right away, they have the, they find similarities, right?
Mm-hmm. You had some more.
Another thing too. You remember when he's saying the language?
Yeah.
Could get them to teach us
Right.
the language.
Yeah. And make that be the thing that you're gonna put us on. If you're gonna put us on something, we want to know how to speak whatever language you have. We don't want your holy book stuff and all of that.
You got it.
Yeah, we don't want that. Teach us how to speak the Mm-hmm.
That's my
Islam. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Because there was a lot going on. There was a lot going on.
I would just say that I think we have to be very cautious because those guys were obviously sent out, probably as I said, on a mission from their imam to sort of see the world. And I think what will happen is we're going to meet with a definite form of resistance because, as you said, this is the religion to end all religions in a sense. So they will, or at least end the control that the leaders have on their people through religion. And so I think that we will probably meet, what we were meeting with there was tacit resistance from the perspective that he was just sort of, this would be like a brainwashing thing.
Yeah, yeah,
He's brainwashing. He's just telling you, got to come to the thing. You got to come
yeah,
to the thing.
yeah, yeah.
The next guy's going to tell him, hey, those are evil jinn and
Yeah,
whatever, and it's gonna be on. So I would more look at focusing within from a perspective, because I think Cujo, you and I have been through the summits.
Yeah,
We've been on the streets
Right.
doing what they've done. It's about giving them that glass of water, and if they drink, they drink. If not, it's not about trying to force it on them, because, and especially from an organizational perspective,
yeah,
I think what will happen is we will start to become the people to stay away from their perspective. But I think where I would say the difference is maybe in trying to find the similarities versus the differences.
yeah.
Is most important.
As far as the communication
Right.
with them.
And then
Based
trying
in
to, as in Aikido, trying to sort of be, trying to absorb their attacks rather than
Then be defensive against
rather
it.
than, why aren't we at the mosque? What we did was perfect.
Yeah.
Versus trying to tell them that they're wrong.
Right.
Is where I see the differences there for us. But I think what we met with, which was beautiful, is someone yearning and looking. I think what we're going to get now after this is going to be some applied stuff, because if they go back to the imam and talk about this, that's going to be a red flag for their man from the perspective of, because what it's about is about getting those people in there and getting those donation money.
Yeah.
That's always what it's been about. Right? So that's all I would say. That's only from the past 50 times we've tried to communicate with these people, right?
So,
If I can interject, but I may be off point, but hopefully I think I get it. You see, as I said, the Moors, the rule, that's what the Prophet Nobujuali bring us back to, right? Because the Moors that rule, we never know about them. Those that, like I said, I never know about them. In what we call mainstream Islam, you don't know about them. You just say, oh, they say the Muslims rule Spain.
yeah.
The Muslims those Moors retook Andalus, because remember, all that was part of the old system, right? Now we have the Visigoths there, right? If I'm correct me if I go off, right? So now we in this predicament. What's going on? What happened? Even those guys outside said, so what happened? What you guys doing? You guys did all of this. What happened now? I know what happened. I'm talking, maybe it's, we lose the education, which we did. We get hit in the head. But then, if you go when the Nobujuali came, I didn't know if you put it together. He came and he said, no, you're this. You're not what they call it. Now, in Arabia, it was just Arabia. The Germans, all this thing was parted up. If I'm going wrong, correct me.
Yeah, Berlin Conference and whatever.
Yeah. They're the ones that put that sword there. And they eliminate all the people. That's why you find the brothers in Yemen is fighting. And nobody knows why they fight. Why they're fighting these people.
Yeah, it's the same thing why nobody knows why Palestinians fight.
Right. Because if you look at these guys in Yemen, they're Moors.
Yeah.
But no, somebody ever tell them what happened when you still fighting. I mean, they pushing you away.
Yeah.
Because those guys, they would tell the guys in the Maghreb and coming, oh, you guys are not. Yeah, they're not, because you guys are Khazars. And it's the Khazars, the Germans.
Yeah.
And I saw a document whereby they say Churchill is saying, we can't pay you too much because the people gonna wake up
Yeah.
and
They're gonna
realize
they're gonna
that,
give away that. Yeah.
yeah, and give away our hand. So all these brothers running around among themselves, they divided. They fighting each other.
Well,
because if you say, okay, I'm Shia, they'll cut you out.
No, that was part of the thing too. That when the brother was here and they were asking, well, there's separation. Yeah. There's separation in in Islam. No, there isn't. Yeah, everything's one or whatever. Like no. But okay, we'll go.
And then what? Umayyad, and the Abbasids, which branched off to the Fatima. Then you had the Almoravid.
That's where you come into. But
These are all caliphates.
yeah.
Right? And then
But those are the Moors, right? Almoravids, the Almohad, all those are Moors.
All Moors.
Yeah. Those we talking about the Moors. Because even the Umayyad, they're Moors. But they were Moors fighting against each other.
Right. That's how the stuff happened.
Yeah.
That's how when you say what happened, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
And then because of that happening,
Fight against each other. They fight.
because of that happening, now here's the division. And once the people are divided, now they're easy to pick off one by
Because
one.
when you open the so-called Quran, it tells you this was hidden.
Yeah.
So why they hide it?
Mhm.
And another thing too, when you read, if you were trying to bring that truth, they will cut your head off too, because two brothers, according to in the tradition book, the two brothers, they were running away, and they were from the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad, right, Mustafa. They're running, coming. These new people that are gonna take over now are coming. So they crossed in the Euphrates. The one brother said, "Oh, they're coming. They're gonna be good to us." The brother said, "No, we're going," and they were heading to Benin, what we call Benin today. You know what? And they cut his head off. And the brother was, because he can look over the shore, he see they cut his head off, so he was able to recall what happened to his brother. And they come into Niger and they did really, they stayed. Now, if they stayed, that means they had to look, they were Moors. But as I say, you know, I miss out.
Brothers, Muslim brothers.
Yeah, some dudes from the mosque around the corner.
Yeah, there's a mosque down there.
So you seen them outside, and they were in here for about 15 minutes, and we were just going back and forth.
Yeah.
But we're setting up to have a conversation later.
Okay.
So we're gonna.
Today?
No. Sometime maybe 2 weeks, a month, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But
I like the
but that's what he's saying to have you there.
Yeah.
Because you're from that realm, right? So
because that's
it'll be a different.
like for me.
Yeah.
I always want to find. That's why when I said know thyself, I wanted to find
Myself.
who am I?
Yeah.
Who are my people before me?
Like for example, he was making reference to and this is what we were talking about it being so dogmatic. I think who was it that said it? Was you that said something when you were talking about the dogma? Yeah. That he was talking about, you're supposed to be in the mosque and you have to go to the mosque and the book says, and the book says and the book says and the book says and it's
So
just
who changed the book?
right. But
You never get into that.
No, the book was changed.
We brought two other current and showed him. We brought two and showed him.
No, forget this one, right? Even
Like what I was saying, like who was before Muhammad? Like we went into that. Like like who wrote like before Muhammad? Who was
no, and another thing, like they will tell you stuff that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was illiterate. Now, if we all have common sense, a literate man do all of this.
translated.
But this is translation though.
Yeah.
But you see now, as I say, I was finding myself. I watched those guys in Speaker's Corner. And one of the brother, he came and he said, I think it's in a library or somewhere in England, there is the Syriac Amharic. And he brought the book in Syriac Amharic and tell the brother, he said, are you an Arab? He said, yeah, I'm Arab. He said, well, read this. He pulled it out from his phone and he said, I can't read that. But only thing he know up top, because every Muslim will know that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, because it's up top. You will know that.
Yeah.
Read it. I don't know that. That's old. But that's original.
Yeah.
Don't say it's old. It's original.
Yeah.
If you think you need to know this. But what happened coming to history brought me to this part, you know. History. I want, as I said, trying to find myself. So now, when the divide came, was the Prophet Muhammad, is there upon him, his nephew, his cousin, was supposed to be the guy to take over. They said, no. We want people that are going to do what we tell them. And this is what the divide came, and that's why they start slaughtering them. And this what it is. So those ones that look, because when we say Fatima, who you think of? Fatima, right there where you see who Fatima is. When you say Ali, and then you say no good you Ali, and no good you, the prophet came with that name. I remember they run into with Misra, and they came into what we call now Niger, and they run down into Morocco, going into Mali. That's where they have to go hide. So if I'm hiding, and there's some people coming behind me, that means you're different from me. Because when they came, and this is where the whole we lose Andalus, because those are the ones came in and they fight the Almoravids and the Almohads.
Right.
And the brother that liberate us back to at the end when he came back out from Morocco.
Which dynasty are you talking about?
At the end of it.
The last dynasty?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about Al-Rashid. Because he died and then went to Ishmael.
No, they're gonna. Is it Idris or
Idris?
something Idris?
I can't remember.
But I may be wrong. But he came because we were already fight. The fighting was, the separation was going on, and he came and he said, "Listen, because they say a Muslim must not raise a student not a Muslim." So he said, "Who on the hack? We're gonna destroy the monarchic," and they put it to them. Now these ones that were fighting the hack, the truth, they align with the what we call the Visigoths. And this is how they came in now. Because you remember you had to get the inside portion to breach the Alhambra. Because they say it was you can't penetrate the Alhambra. So with this is how it happened and we lost. And the guy didn't want to fight at the end, and his mom said, "Come on."
It's always inside.
Yeah. She said,
He just said was his uncle?
the Visigoths helped those on the other side, the Khazars. The Khazars and the Visigoths come together and they defeated those. But we give up. We didn't want to just slaughter because.
And we, says that.
No, because they were the Moors we're talking about, right? So the guy signed over, because remember, those are the people that are going to win it now. These are the ones that are ruling today. So the real Moors that got kicked out, and the monarchic and the Visigoths. Now you're going to go back into Germany and all this. So now when the prophet came and he said, "This, what's going on? You guys are not this. You guys are more. You have a nationality. You are a nation." Because everything was spinning, right? Everything's. I didn't know this. So then you come now, 1932, 31, everything was in the motion. And then the guys, they put the sword in power and they say, "Listen, if any Muslim nation need help, you are not supposed to help them. You must not unite as a human to help each other. Come to the United Nations. We will help you. You know that is what it is? So this is what destroyed the caliphate. The hack, put it that way, as they want to put it that way. The hack was destroyed. Well, not destroyed, was
Which
hidden.
captivity?
The last one in coming out
Of what?
of Morocco, of Spain. Those brothers that they're gonna be the Almoravids. Those were the last ones, right? All Mohab. The Almohad,
It was Al-Mohabit, then
Mhm.
Al-Mohad, then it went to the Istrid.
but
So
he
that's
was
it.
still
There's many
connected.
dynasties after though, there's so many.
No, but he was still connected to the Almo.
Yeah, they're all called Mulis, so they're
Yeah,
all.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what happened.
Yeah.
So I started myself, but when the brother was talking, I think I knew it. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, because it would be good to have a more verse from that side.
Yeah, because
To have the convo
part
with
to
him.
this, to this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why were they always fighting? Look at Fatih, Muhammad the Conqueror.
Mhm.
He said all his descendants after him were allowed to come for a claim for the throne. So how much people, other sultanates in line from the Ottoman bloodline. So look at it like that. Like, okay, you could say the Alawite dynasties, they were under vassalage of the Ottomans. Certain Hindustan dynasties are under the Ottomans. So you gotta look at it like that.
But remember too, when Uthman, that's why they killed Uthman.
Yeah.
Uthman was ruling from here. He's the real caliph, the leader. The Ottomans said, no, we have a caliphate, and they were going and they were the one that making the mischief. So this is the lineage where the Khazars came in. Because remember that's the Romans.
Mhm.
That is where, and they were going into their land saying we're Muslim, we're Islam, this is Islam. So that's why the people say Islam came to them by the sword. Now over here, so they was out, you see, book divide.
Well, Moors of Spain says the same way. They came with the sword. That's why they lost.
No, you see that we came to retake.
Well, we take, yeah.
So we had to come in like that because remember they were oppressing the brothers there. And when the letter they went to Turkey, it didn't went to the Ottomans, it came to Medina, right? Or to Yathrib. The message came to Yathrib. So the brothers that went, they call them the brothers Ethiopian. And then the brothers coming out from what we call the West.
Okay.
Because most of the brothers that were there were from the West. And this brother, Ben Yakin, his book, we the something Jews, we the original Jews. It's a book from Yusuf Ben Yakin. He's Ethiopian brother. No, he's from the Caribbean, but his father was from Ethiopia.
Yeah, Dr. Benny's talking about.
Dr. Ben, right? Yeah, there's Dr. Ben. Yusuf Ben Yakin.
Okay.
He has the book, and he say when they talk, they don't tell people that was the guys, the West, what we would call now the Almohad, the Almoravi. These are Senegambians, because Senegambian Mali, is all that.
Yeah.
And then there's a tradition where they say these guys, these Almoravis, because they were so big, they used to flip the guys up in the head and make they come down here like what we call a pioneer driver and break their neck.
Sorry, I mean,
Uh-huh.
I was just thinking what you were saying, like I was just thinking you were saying all these dynasties, these rulers, that's the division.
Yeah.
But I think that's why Muhammad Ali like a mastermind, because the way he did it, the way he left things, there could be no like guy that's in charge. You know, we have to honor him in the end, and there should be none of this.
Yeah.
We're used to like when we know these stories of these. You know, like these rulers that I was reading about the Chinese ruler, the father, like the whole dynasty with behind his father and stuff, and why certain things are the way they are today in China and stuff. And it's like, that's why the prophet came and did what he did. So
And that's the
forward was none of that.
None of that, but that's how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
You see, so Nobujuali came and he came telling you this is it. You see, this is what the prophet Nobujuali said. This is it. Don't be fooled. This is the way. And you're not these things.
And on top of that, he made all of us. He gave all of us that were sheiks, made us sheiks and sheikesses, right? We can govern ourselves so that we can look at this guy's the dynasty ruler of this year.
Right.
Everybody's their own.
But in the book, it said it's a way of life.
Right.
Right? It says a way of life. It never said religion. It said, I've perfected your way this day. And I choose Islam. And what Islam? They never say what Islam is, what it means.
Yeah.
Right? It's a way of life. It's not a religion. But as I say, it will tell it to realign, come back to this path, to the path. This is the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. But people like, as I say, we have this thing, when people, you see, it's easy to believe a lie than the truth. So that is where we.
That's why he's an mastermind. That's why I'm just saying. In the conclusion of all this.
The bottom line.
Yeah, that's true. And there's other thing behind these guys' frame of thought. There's other things behind their frame of thought. And one thing is to get the people,
Yeah.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, so we gonna cut the paper off, to get,
I mean, we don't have to do that. All of us are dealing with are just slowly cutting it off.
Slowly and surely.
Islam.
Islam.
As you proceed.
International Committee of the Red Cross. Occupation and international human law. When does the law of occupation start to apply? The rules of international humanitarian law relevant to occupied territories become applicable whenever territory comes under the effective control of hostile foreign armed forces, even if the occupation meets no armed resistance and there is no fighting. The question of control calls up at least two different interpretations. It could be taken to mean that a situation of occupation exists whenever a party to a conflict exercises some level of authority or control within a foreign territory. So, for example, advancing troops could be considered bound by the law of occupation already during the invasion phase of hostilities. This is the approach suggested in the ICRC's commentary to the Fourth Geneva Convention. An alternative and more restrictive approach would be to say that a situation of occupation exists only once a party to a conflict is in a position to exercise sufficient authority over enemy territory to enable it to discharge all of the duties imposed by the law of the occupation. This approach is adopted in a number of military manuals. So part of going through this is to also continue to put forth the mindset that this is what's going on. even though we're not seeing armed stuff out there and we're not seeing certain activity that might present itself in other countries as occupation, you know, them having mandates for certain stuff is occupation. Them saying we're gonna suspend your license because you didn't pay 2 notes is occupation. Them taking how much ever out of your check just for them to go wherever they're going is occupation, right? What are the most important principles governing occupation? The duties of the occupying power are spelled out primarily in the 1907 Hague Regulations and the Fourth Geneva Convention, as well as in certain provisions of additional protocol and customary international humanitarian law. The main rules of the law applies in cases of occupations state that the occupant does not acquire sovereignty over the territory. So the individual who's occupying, they're not bringing their sovereignty from wherever they're coming from and applying it to do whatever it is that they're doing under occupation. Right? The occupant does not acquire the sovereignty of who they're occupying. The sovereignty always remains with the people who are being occupied. But the power that they have is jails, guns, violence, fear, and whatever else to get you to accept the occupation, opposed to stand up against it. So even what you see with Europeans standing up with mandates and whatever, they're recognizing that they're about to be occupied. They're recognizing that they're losing their little stuff that they used to get, you know, and they're not about to give up the little stuff that they have left. Whereas they have something that at least that they could give up, where we have nothing, which is the point of us being unified and bringing our resources and what we have together, so that there's something that we can say that we have, right? Just like how we use the thing with the Ashkenazis having their own blood bank. They ain't going to anybody else to give or get blood. They're going to go to their own blood bank, right? Occupation is only a temporary situation, and the rights of the occupant are limited to the extent of that period. So as temporary as they're claiming that it is, it's still going on. So it really hasn't been temporary like that. But the repetition of it continuing to happen is because of, you know, again, the people who have the knowledge, just like what we're dealing with today, imparting it on the ignorant for their improvement, so that things could change, because the people are improving, is where the change is going to come from in the society. Like we're talking about on the way up, we're talking about all these people dealing with all these different issues, and that people don't want to face the issue, right? They don't want to deal with what the problem is. They want to deal with everything else and find every way to get around the problem, opposed to just deal with it. But how can they if they lack the knowledge of how to deal with the problem? Which is where, again, that we come in having this information, being in a position of having superior information that could start some type of momentum toward change for the whole. But ultimately, it's really about us looking at ourselves, looking at what we're doing, and how is it that we can add on to what it is that we have. Because clearly the occupation is going to continue on. So what things are we gonna put in place so that we can continue on, regardless of what they're claiming that they're doing? You know what I mean? Because again, they're going with their agenda, whatever that agenda is. From 2 years ago, they've gotten a lot further with their motive, with their plan. Their operation is actually one foot in step in front of the other. It's not stagnant, right? If anybody has any thoughts, you could just put those out. The occupying power must respect the laws in force in the occupied territory, unless they constitute a threat to its security or an obstacle to the application of the international law of occupation. The occupying power must respect the laws in force in the occupied territory, unless they constitute a threat to its security or an obstacle to the application of the international law of occupation.
So that'd be like, treaty rights, right?
Or constitutional rights, or indigenous rights, or they would have to respect all of that, even though they're occupying.
So now, here's where the Zodiac Constitution.
You put that in there too. Yeah.
That the president or whatever they have.
Right. And it should in an occupied position. But the repetitive theme with us is that the numbers, as far as the Moorish paradigm, right? If we can say it's not about proclaim and anyone's a Moor, then we got millions. But if we're talking about proclaim, declare, have nationality, not mindset, and living like that, it's not the numbers that's gonna make these people yield when we start exercising certain things.
Yeah, well, when you peep that, their proclamation is a powerful thing.
Deep?
It's free.
Yeah,
It's freeing yourself. Now we go back to what these guys are saying. Say you say you're Muslim, but we are a nation.
Mm.
And the nation is, you have to be a Moor.
Right.
But they outside of it. You see, they don't want to come in because they're like, you guys are ahead of us. No, we're ahead of you. You just say you've been out all the time. You need to come in and stand on this square.
Yeah.
You see, that's what it is. So that's why you say that proclamation is a powerful thing, yeah.
Yeah. But they have to be ready for as powerful as it is. If they're not even ready for
it's weighty.
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's been there waiting.
Yeah.
Omar, you had something?
No, I was just saying, I think there's a distinction, right? The issue is that we asked them where they were from. They said they were Afghanistan.
Yeah, Bangladesh or wherever. Yeah.
They had a nationality.
Yeah.
We're mixing up the fact that you're seeing the proclamation of being Muslim as part of that. That is their religion.
Yeah.
Versus their
Their nationality.
Well,
Yeah.
our issue is that we don't have a nationality, which, like the so-called Jews, we're trying to proclaim that our religion is our national. Not that that's what we're doing. We should not be mixing that up. We're looking at national principles here.
Yeah.
But that's what I told him too. No bourgeoisie is the one that brought us our birthright and our nationality.
Yeah.
But for them, the issue is for them. You see,
they have nationality already.
So who was I talking with? It was you, I think, this morning, saying about the fact that because we're talking about the Chinese and the Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Saying,
with them buying up all the stuff and whatever.
No, but also I think from the perspective of how were those that seem to be being sort of not discriminated against, but being given force against, why were they ahead of us?
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying from birth, they have
certain things,
within them.
Yeah.
So the aspects of because some of us will go. Not that I've been there, but I've understood that the living conditions in India and these things could be construed as being way worse than ours here. But the reason why a lot of them aren't up in arms is because at the very least, they have a nationality.
Mhm.
They just may not be,
Same thing
you know,
with
they may
China.
not have been advanced in their caste system, let's say, but they would all still be Afghanis, or they'd all be Hindustanis first.
Yeah.
And they'd be killing you first before they would then go and kill their own brothers
Right,
and putting
yeah.
them in slavery. So that's where our issue is. You know, because we have lost those Moors, those Moorings, we can then be bandied about and directed about. That's where I see our difference.
Mhm.
And that's what's kept us in the position that we're in. I think that's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, yeah.
But that's the difference between them. We're in here arguing semantics. It doesn't have, to them, they still go back into Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So they can be Christian Afghanistanians,
Yeah,
but they would be
Because they're
Afghanistanians,
Afghan still. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Which is what they have innately.
yeah.
We're still trying to prove to people that we're Moroccans, which is the issue. And what they're doing is the powers that have kept us where we're at are making sure to say, hey, you've been calling yourselves black forever because they've been feeding off of us. They're not about to give that up anytime soon. But I think that's what you were touching on, right? From the perspective of the occupier.
Yeah.
That really, that should be something given to us.
Mhm, mhm.
But that would come from our forefathers and the honor that we would have towards that.
Towards that, not
Our
toward.
parents have, in a sense, unfortunately, our parents sold us out.
They didn't know better.
Well, we can say that,
You
but
say their parents sold them.
Yeah.
fair enough, but I'm just saying that whatever that is,
That's why
it's
the prophet
still.
come to let us know now.
Huh?
That's why the prophet come to let us know. Yeah,
Right,
he
but-
said it's gonna take
But hold on,
100
remember
years.
this, the prophet was back there in 1886.
And he said it's gonna take 100 years for my people to even know.
I don't think he said it would take 100 years. I don't think he said that. I think he said 50 years after I was gone, you might not know I'm here. And if you're not careful, 50 years after I'm gone, you won't know that I'm here.
That's right.
It didn't have anything to do with that. He brought us our nationality back then, and we sold out again back then. That's the problem.
And that's why Makers didn't even know. Because who sold out? We wasn't there when it was selling out.
Well, remember, the whole deal is it was ourselves that sold out.
Yeah.
It was our own people that took. That's the difference, I think, with a lot of these other nations. They won't sell out their nationality.
Always. Up to this day, more than 100 years now, people still don't know who is Noble Drew. And they know Muhammad, they heard of Jesus, Muhammad. They know
Everybody else,
Muhammad.
They don't speak about nobody Ali.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And you
still
see,
don't know.
with that Ali at the back, they ain't gonna mention it.
They're not gonna, yeah.
You better you say Ali, they look at you different,
Yeah.
even among the streamline.
Yeah, yeah.
Ali, they-
Even Ali in that is
Yeah,
is,
it
is
is.
a big deal. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
because Ali means separation. Because Ali is the one they, and anything from Ali, they put the sword on. So when you say Ali, Ali is a powerful thing.
Most important principles governing occupation. The occupying power must take measures to restore and ensure as far as possible public order and safety. The fullest extent of the means available to it, the occupying power must ensure sufficient hygiene and public health standards, as well as the provision of food and Medicare to the population under occupation. And then they're denying that when you look at the whole thing with the homeless situation and camps, and they want to put down people's camps and all this.
And the brothers not even getting good drinking water out there.
Right up there still,
And even in
reserves still a mess.
Detroit, look what they do to the
Right.
water.
What's going on there?
But I thought you had stated to me that this money had been given back to them, that it was really their own people who kept it, right?
What's that?
We were talking about the indigenous or whatever, right?
Yeah. What does that mean? No, from the perspective of them being occupied too. Even though it was an arrangement why they're occupied, because their own sold out, which is why they're on reserves and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Right? Their chiefs and all that don't live on reserve with them. They're a mansion somewhere. And they don't see that there's a problem there. And if they do see it, they're too under the influence to do anything about it.
And they used their leader up in the parliament to further dumb them down.
Right. Yeah.
Further dumb them down now. With one of their leaders in the parliament.
The population in occupied territory cannot be forced to enlist in the occupier's armed forces. Right, but the population in the occupied territory would go and volunteer to be in the armed forces, right? Which would make it not on the occupier. If they just put a desk out with some flyers on it, and you go pick up a flyer and go apply, right? Once in a while, they're gonna have somebody at the table. Most times, just the table sitting there with a banner. And the stuff just sitting there, people go take it on their own and volunteer themselves.
Do that a lot in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
New York. Brooklyn, man. Brooklyn, they got it.
Collective or individual forcible transfers of population from and within the occupied territory is prohibited. And that's gentrification, when they broke down Regent Park and sent all of them over there, and then they broke down this guy and sent all of them over there. That's violating the international law of occupation. But if those people are classified Negro, black, colored, and all the other stuff, what are they gonna say? They don't have a say, Which is why, again, Juali's the man, because once he said we have a nationality, that gives us the power, the authority to exercise certain things. Right?
When you look at it, you would thought in that nationality, and he went down south. They were giving him his props. They were like, yeah. And the rest of the people that was calling themselves by those peon and stuff, they were getting,
Yeah. Collective punishment is prohibited. The taking of hostages is prohibited. If they kidnap you and say pay bail, isn't that hostage money that they're asking for? Reprisals against protected persons or their property is prohibited. Right? Indigenous people are endangered species. They're protected. The confiscation of private property by the occupant is prohibited. Right? Everybody got their car taken from these people at one time. The destruction or seizure of enemy property is prohibited unless absolutely required by military necessity during the conduct of hostilities. Cultural property must be respected. You see that one with the European teacher doing the Indian dance or whatever in the class? It's the European Indian teacher talking about something, and she got the headband on and all this like that, and starts ooh-ooh-ooh and all that up and down the aisles of the classroom and stuff. Stuff went viral.
It's time.
Right? Respecting the cultural property. Right? People accused of criminal offenses shall be provided with proceedings respecting internationally recognized judicial guarantees. For example, they must be informed of the reason for their arrest, charged with a specific offense, and given a fair trial as quickly as possible. And that's Rise of the Moors right now. Right? Accused of criminal offenses, weren't provided with any proceedings respecting international recognized judicial guarantees, weren't informed of the reason for their arrest, charged with something that has nothing to do with anything. They're excited. No, not today. It ain't happening today.
Unfortunately, today we're only here till about the latest 3 o'clock. But You want to say next week?
You can say next week or something.
How, next week?
You can say next week.
Because we have these brothers come from other places.
Yeah.
So they will go. So maybe some other brothers will come, but we can meet on next week.
Yeah, sorry, just a little short notice. Sorry, good luck. Anxious, eh?
Yeah, anxious for the gospel.
He said there's brothers from other places. I guess they brought their A team down.
See what's going down there with Mr. T and them.
Bro. Give us on one side, them on the other.
I know, that ain't happening tonight. People are nuts. Where were they last week? They got excited. So they just called you, right? They just called.
I
Just
call right now. I
yeah.
saw the number before, so I didn't answer it. Then I thought, let me call back, and then I checked this number because it recognized.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they want to come back tonight with the A team.
Polishing up their shit and stuff right now. We're 6, okay. I last said attend your meeting. Section 2, pray 5 times.
Personnel of the International Red Cross / Red Crescent movement must be allowed to carry out their humanitarian activities. The ICRC in particular must be given access to all protected persons wherever they are, whether or not they are deprived of their liberty. And you already know Red Cross is Sardinia. They jacked our stuff again. Jacked our stuff one more time and going around the world doing madness with it. What rights does the occupying power have regarding property and natural resources in the occupied territory? Private property cannot be confiscated by the occupier. Food and medical supplies may be requisitioned exclusively for the use of the occupation forces and administration personnel themselves, i.e., not for persons of export outside of the occupied territory, not for the benefit of anyone beyond the occupying personnel, unless necessary for the benefit of population under occupation itself, and only if the needs of the civilian population have been taken into account. Public property. The occupying power may seize any movable property belonging to the state which may be used for military operations. The occupant does not acquire ownership of immovable property in the occupied territory, since it is only a temporary administrator. Subject to the restrictions regarding their exploitation and use, it can nevertheless make use of public property, including natural resources, but it must safeguard their capital value in accord with the law of usufruct. And on usufruct law, in essence, nothing else but simple allowing one to enjoy others' property. It is also defined as the right to enjoy the property of another temporarily, including both the jus utendi and the jus fruendi, with the owner retaining the jus despondi, or the power to alienate the same. So with regard to natural resources and even property, once the property is private, it cannot be confiscated by the occupier, with the same stuff that we were talking about with last week, right? That and where trusts come in, if you have actual real property that you want to protect, that you don't register with them, you put it in a trust. You want to say finance for the heirs, you put it in a trust. You don't put it in the bank. right? That way, if anything goes down, they can't get their hands on it. Right? Because you know that's how they get by. Just take people's stuff, call it theirs. When does occupation come to an end? The normal way for an occupation to end is for the occupying power to withdraw from the occupied territory or be driven out of it. However, the continued presence of foreign troops does not necessarily mean that occupation continues. A transfer of authority to a local government reestablishing the full and free exercise of sovereignty will normally end the state of occupation if the government agrees to the continued presence of foreign troops on its territory. However, the law of occupation may be applicable again if the situation on the ground changes. That is to say, if the territory again becomes actually placed under the authority of the hostile army. In other words, under the control of the foreign troops without the consent of the local authorities. So when we say proclamation of nationality, when we say tax exempt number, when we show ID, when we go to court, stand on our square, any type of activity that we partake in dealing with our nationality and birthrights is the reestablishing of the full and free exercise of sovereignty, because it's constantly occupation that's happening, which is why we go with the acquiescence, because once they acquiesce, then they're agreeing to everything from the header of the paperwork that has the flag on it, that says Moorish Divine National Movement, that says, free national names, that says Vizier, that says Moorish Nation. They're acquiescing to everything, which is letting us know that they're down with everything, or they would say something. They would have some type of response to us if there was an issue. Being that there's not an issue, they're recognizing that, yes, these people are their own government to do certain things. And then that from that, then the people start exercising on that. And this is why we gave out the correspondence with us and them for the Indigenous Day, right? So that it could be seen that they know exactly what we're talking about when we say Moors. Because why would we ask for something Moorish and they give us something indigenous? If they don't know, they have to know that Moors are obviously indigenous people too. Right? Now, even with there was even people who got kicked back with the exemption stuff with the mandates, because they're saying, well, it's only religious and medical exemptions that are allowed. Yeah, which is going against the rules of the occupation. Because they're supposed to be going with the laws. They're not supposed to be going against it as an occupier.
But it's working for them.
Yeah. And again, it's working because when we look at the numbers, you know what I mean? The Moors are the only ones that are doing anything relative to coming close to presenting a legitimate argument against them with whatever it is that they're doing. Whether they try to steal your house, whether they give you a ticket, whether it's taxes, whether you're on the street with somebody, regardless of what the issue is, our presentment, nationality, birthright, standing on the law, constitution, things relative to that are what's gonna stop them from doing things that they shouldn't be doing, because it's occupation. So that doesn't mean that they have sovereignty to do what they want. They're supposed to be going by what the law is, even as an occupier, even in a position of we stole your land, they still have to pay homage to the culture that was here first. They still have to pay honors to the treaties and arrangements that were made between the past foremothers and forefathers and their foremothers and forefathers, right? But they're not able to do that because of our numbers as Moors across the planet. Because majority of the Moors want to be Negro, black, colored, and everything else that isn't going to get us what we need. You know, which again is why the importance of Moors who have this knowledge turning themselves inward and working in with our own, whatever it is we got to deal with, that we look to each other for those things, because it's not happening out there, and out there is getting scarce. You're getting less and less from the occupier at this point. At this point, they're pretty much just violating anybody. It doesn't even matter. Red, blue, orange, pink, green people, everybody's getting violated right now. Nobody got rights. Nobody has anything to stand on. And the only reason that we have a stronghold, the reason we have something is because it's been around for 100 years. So they can't deny it. As far as what Noble Drew Ali presented, the fact that Moors been going to mayor's office, different senators, different whoever's that in the so-called government or whatever like that, there's been interaction with the occupier and people who are classified, recognized, acknowledged as Moors. It's just us carrying that on. And, you know, the being that the occupation is as real as it is, even looking at what's going on right now, right, with them and their mandates and all that, right? It's voluntary subjugation, but it's coerced voluntary. It's not voluntary because people want to volunteer. You know, they're coercing people to not be able to have a livelihood, right? You know, because they're going outside of the realm of morals and stuff like that now. Not now. They've been outside of it, but when they're telling you that, you know, you're not working, you know what I mean? 30, 40 years you've been on the thing, and they're saying, we don't even care how long you've been here. You know what I mean? If you don't have the thing, you're not getting the thing. And those are the options. You know, it goes back to that thing of where we have to be with where we have to be with recognizing how much work needs to get done, so we can start preparing some things and having some things, even if it's not for us, that the posterity have something. Even if we don't get it, if we don't have it, we set it up for generations after us.
Yeah. So everything we do is for those to come.
Yeah.
And those to come gonna do for those to come.
Yeah.
Because we lost our way from the past, and now we're gonna straighten the back for the ones to come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was trying to tell the guy this morning. In other words, Muhammad came over there for you guys, whatever. But we over here know no majority came for us.
Yeah, because that's what it is.
That's our problem.
Because they give that to themselves.
Yeah.
They give that to themselves. Because like
that's the hidden secrets.
Right.
Secrets that they kept back.
Like, the name was here. Like the name would be floating in, but what we know about it? Nobody didn't say anything about it. But then in their tradition, they say that this Islam gonna rise in the West before the time, end of time. Now, how is it rising? Who's gonna bring it up? Good, so you see that, but they will go, no, you guys move and come in, you said nothing.
You don't tell me that's it.
You come move in, you set up in your communities, you stay in your corner. We don't know nothing.
Mhm.
But here, now we going back to 19, to the 19. You guys were here, they were already here. Alberta, because they were in Brooklyn, going out of Brooklyn, they came and they established that they were doing their business by themselves. They never tell the guys them on the other block, yo, this. No, it's proof, it's there. And, we came here in 18 something. And the girls said, no, some of them were even in the system.
Mhm.
So until when duality come and say, yo, wake up, proclaim who you are, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And it spits the whole thing on top of the head. Now everybody was running like when you turn on the lights and the root is in the room.
Yeah,
But it's
scatter.
so in the Moors, now where they start coming out, the original.
If anybody has any questions, you can ask those. Somebody just asked about, with regard to occupation, can you be under someone else's jurisdiction and free at the same time? Right? In a proper functioning for society, no, you can't. Because once you're under somebody else, then you're a ward. You automatically lost your rights if you're under somebody, which is different than occupation. Right? Occupation is somebody claiming something that they shouldn't even be claiming. Occupation is not a proper,
Not permanent.
a proper thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to occupy somebody's land. You're going to go talk to them, arrange a treaty, and you get a portion of it. If you want land from them, you're not going to go murder all them and take their stuff over.
And
Right.
they're gonna tax you, you're gonna pay something.
Right, and you got to pay them to
You're
Them to be there.
Yeah.
So that's not what it is. What we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is that we know that this is Morocco. We know that this is the Moorish Empire. We know that the Aboriginal indigenous people are misclassified as Negro, Black, African, whatever else, Caribbean islands, West Indies, whatever, right? And their positions got taken over by somebody else that's claiming to be some indigenous people when they're not even it, right? So when the heirs to the land step up and start saying that, well, we're not these things, now everything else has to be slotted different, right? Because if the Moors say that we're the American, then everybody who's not American can't be American anymore. You have to identify what it is you are. Then if Moors start saying that they're indigenous, then everybody who's indigenous needs to step up, and now they have to say, all right, well how indigenous are you?
Yeah.
And if you're not us, then obviously you're not the ones, right? People saying they're white people, and that's gonna have to change.
Yeah.
We start saying this is Morocco, then they gotta stop saying this is New York, this is Toronto, this is whatever. All that stuff has to change, right? But one thing that we have as the indigenous people that we talk about is the power to define. That because we have superior jurisdiction even under occupation, it's about us exercising it regardless. This is why Drew Ali said at the risk of even your very life, defend this. Because there's nothing else nothing else has worked. We have proof of that. Watching all, just like we said, all our ancestors Everybody who was before us that did whatever they did, and then if we're here with nothing, then they probably didn't do what they're supposed to do. Because like Omar says, when we look at all these other people, they got cottage, they got this handed down to them from their uncle, whoever, their grandma, whatever, gave them land, 500 acres, and then there's nothing. Everything that we got, church either got it or it went right back to master, right? So when we talk about under jurisdiction and we talk about being free, the freedom is the frame of mind. That's the freedom before any other freedom. Because if you're not free in your mind, and if you get the freedom out here, you're going to lose it anyways, because you're not mentally free. So the freedom is really mindset first, freedom, and then all the freedoms come from you having a free mindset. And the free mindset is, you don't have European psychology. You're studying from your, saints, your reputable individuals. You're studying from credible people that's going to give you reference points that you can actually go check. It's not their opinions, and you form something based on what it is that you learn. When the freedom's violated, it's either because there's somebody occupying or you abandon something. When the freedom's violated, you abandoned, so you got violated for abandoning, or somebody's occupying you, and they're selling you your freedoms back as privileges or whatever, right? Any questions or comments? How would you successfully hold these entities and governments accountable for violating the laws? Well, there should be a legitimate jurisdiction that we can go to and present whatever charges, whatever complaints, and the individuals we're going to, they're gonna listen. They're gonna hear a complaint, right? Pattern has shown that these people that are assumed to be courts, governments, whatever, are corpses, and they have nothing to do with law or anything. So those are people you can't go to, because you're not going to get remedy going to them. You look at going to the outside people, international people. International people say, well, you got to exhaust all your remedies where you're at first before we hear anything. Right? All this is set up because of the people's ignorance. Everything that's going down is because denial of the prophet, not acknowledging what they're supposed to acknowledge, claiming to be Negro, black, and all this other stuff. And now here we are complaining about, well, how are we going to sue these guys when they violate us? Well, how you end up in a status to be violated? Because they weren't violating Moors in No Drew Ali's time. To deal with our issues, that we have our own individuals to call, right? So all these issues that we have stem from us not dealing with our first principle again, which Joali's brought all that stuff back. gave us what we're supposed to do in order for us to move forward. He gave us everything so we can move forward. You know, and it's us to just take those things and move forward. But again, it's, you know, when as soon as you hear things like, well, how do we get them back for they did something to us? How do we? Well, what did you do to make them do something to you? They're just doing stuff to you just because they feel like it. Something happened, instance happened, situation happened that had you have to deal with them. Whether somebody else called, whether you called, whatever, something happened to have you in a disagreement with these people who we know they're criminals and they violate the law. And when they violate you, more than likely, they're going to get away with it. More than likely, because they're not new to the game. It's not their first rodeo. They've been violating people. And we've never been defending the violations. And now we're trying to defend the violations and say, well, get a lawyer or go to this court or go to that court when everything is defunct. There's nothing legitimate going on. Everything is a fraud. There ain't no courts.
Like in the book there, the civil rights leader there, that passed.
Mm.
You know how many people look up to him? You know what I'm talking. Lewis, the civil rights leader across there that passed in Chancellor. It's in the book, yeah.
Yeah.
They look up to him and they don't know what he's fighting for them for. He's not going anywhere.
Right.
And he knows the truth as a
Right,
Freemason.
yeah.
As a Freemason, he knows the truth.
Yeah.
And he's fighting for them.
Yeah.
Civil rights, whatever.
The dynasties, the congressman.
Yeah, and he know he ain't going nowhere. They're not going nowhere.
Mm. Right. So that the idea, the get them back because they violated you is might not be a losing battle, but they play lots of games in that realm. They're gonna play games in that realm. If that's the out, then know that these people have their gatekeepers at the out. You're not just gonna, put your stuff in there and they're just gonna say, oh my God, we're gonna file this lawsuit against our boys. Right? Majority of times they probably won't. They're gonna pay off their judge friend to say deny this suit. Right? Because they're criminals. This is just what it is. And it's like the thing that they say with the bully. You have to get the bully early. Because if you don't let the bully know early, you're not going to be playing them games with me or whatever like that. Then they'll bully you forever. And this is where we're at now. We're getting bullied forever. So they're just going on what they know. Put a yellow thing on your car and you're going to go pay. You're not going to fight anything. That's just where it is with them.
Bully.
That's all they're about. Right? That's all they're about. So the real dealing with them is not dealing with them. The real dealing with them is, study your zodiac constitution, study your divine constitution and bylaws, study your literature, so you know how you're supposed to govern yourself. And you're probably not going to see them people. If you're dealing with yourself, how your ancestors dealt with themselves, Europeans weren't running up to them talking about you're arrested for something. They're running from our ancestors. Because they know they ain't doing nothing to Moors. They see Moors go the other direction. They don't want to have any contact with Moors. Now it's, you know, it's like somebody was talking about it, how back in the day European would play around like they got some, you know, walk through the black neighborhood and all that type of stuff. They get their ass kicked. What are you doing around here? And now they got on their clothes, their shoes, they're talking like them, they're saying nigger and all that stuff in the songs, and nobody's doing nothing. Nobody's looking at them. Well, they can't do that or whatever. What that's not how it used to be. You used to actually do something about certain stuff, not just let them do whatever, you know. But it's this is where it's at. That, you know, everybody's not being themselves on every level, right? Men not being themselves, women not being themselves, you know, children not being themselves, children think they're adults telling adults what to do or whatever like that. F you, mom, and all this. You didn't get slapped down yet. And then they get older and try that BS on somebody in the street, you know. Crazy. But this is where it's at, you know, with everything going on. You know, we're not at the thing from its inception. This thing's been going on, and we realize, oh damn, oh yeah, we're neck deep in doo-doo. And then we're chilling there trying to figure out about the racism and all that stuff while we're in the doo-doo. We just want to go deeper. Opposed to, let's get out this stuff, let's spray off this stuff, and then figure out what we're going to be doing, you know. And it's a battle, especially for ones who know, right? Especially for ones who know, because, you know, we can't say anything to our people, you know, with regard to this info, so we could start getting some stuff done, you know, again, which is why it's about, you know, Moors looking to Moors, you know. Jews look to Jews. They don't care about anybody else. And nobody ain't looking at them and talking about they're racist because they only support their own stuff. Then the Sri Lankans have their own stuff. Ain't nobody telling them, hey, they're racist. Why are you only buying houses next to each other? Why you buy houses across from each other? You know? All the Asians, anybody saying, oh, they're racist. How come they got their signs in their language and all that stuff? It's not English in this area. How come this area is only Asian languages, no English? No. So they're onto something. No, they're onto something more than we're on something. No. And again with you know, do something about it. With these people violating you, people's next reaction is go to blows with them. You're not beating them in no weapon stuff. You're not beating them. You think some niggers with guns on the block are gonna beat these people? These people have sound weapons and stuff like that. What do you? They'll beat you with a fire hose. And you have guns, and they'll beat you with a fire hose. Because just like the Panthers, once they take out those 10 people who had the brilliant idea of, oh yeah, we're gonna go arms to arms with them. Once they get rid of them 10 people, then everybody else is dinner. Right? Which is why we're saying that the approach should be avoiding these people, not dealing with them. You can live your life not dealing with them. Why do I need to go to court for it? For what? Why do I need to have a court session? Well, you got to prove to them that, no, why is it even, why does that have to be the place where I have to prove something to them? where they still have the power because you're still in their building where they can push the button, lock you in, and then you still can't go anywhere because you want to prove something to them, opposed to prove stuff to yourself. Prove it to yourself that you're going to be humanitarian and that you're going to follow the law and that you're going to do things right and that you're going to, don't look at them and say, well, they killed 50 million people, so we got to kill 50 million people to get by. You might as well just join their brigade. You might as well just join them.
Yeah, because that's the mentality you have.
You might as well just join them. You know, because we're doing everything after the fact. It's our problem. We're reactive. We all want to do something after. Everybody else doing stuff before. We're doing stuff after and want to know how come we're late. How come we're behind? How come our people are behind? We're the founders of whatever. Well, when's the last time you found something? Founder of stuff? Too busy doing all this other stuff that you shouldn't even be doing. Like we said, you go to Chinatown, you're not seeing ain't nobody else in there but them. Like, why is nobody else there? How come it's only them there? Why is that just their stuff? You go to the Indian town, just them there.
Westwood Mall.
Right? Yeah.
Controlled by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember 25 years ago,
Yo,
wasn't like that.
it wasn't like that.
The domicile over there.
Yep.
Wasn't like that.
That's my
Go there now, you talk
Yep.
to India.
Yep. You swear you're
The whole
Indian.
mall.
The whole
The
mall.
whole mall.
They take it and they park it up. And
Yep.
every store is there, man.
Everyone's theirs.
That's my ground, man. That's my
Right.
stomping ground.
That's,
That's
Yeah.
all done.
Big plain to see.
Yeah.
Well, eyes and can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, man. You go around there, it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
You know,
things change.
right? These are our issues. You know, and then, you know, the problems that we're having is that we're coming into this as Moors, and then we want to take this Moorish thing and then apply it to some 5 years ago stuff, 4 years ago stuff, 10 years ago stuff, when it doesn't apply like that. A square peg in a round hole. It's not going in unless you mess one of these things up to force it in there. And then if you force it in there, now it's still not going to work, because then you're going to have to take your time getting it out of that forced thing that you just put it in now. Right? This is why, again, going back to with Drew Ali, that all old business stay as it is, and all new business do in your free national name. You came into this, found out that you're a Moor, and you went to the slave and said, I'm a Moor, and then they fired you. Well, I mean, what did you expect to happen? Why would you think they're just going to change the name over just because you said so? Well, I had all the documents and I had all the stuff to prove that. Yeah, but you've been telling them you're John Smith for the past 20 years. All of a sudden, just like that, you didn't give them a warning. You didn't give them a notice, like, hey, I'm going to be coming into the office on this day to talk about whatever. You just ran in there, just threw the papers down, like, yeah, you got to change this. You're not going with that.
And you never listen to what the doctor said.
Right. You know, all old business, leave it as it is. All new business, do that free, because it's new business. So it's a clean slate. It's not tainted. You take this more stuff and then you're throwing it over some stuff over there, and you think that it's just gonna apply. It's not gonna just apply like that.
It's like a good example when, like, you know, when they want to even deport, you know, it's like, who were you before? Or were you like a Moor before or after? You know, because it's like a Moor, if you're claiming to be a Moor before, then yeah, okay, now they got to look at that, right? And now you're claiming to be a Moor at the point of them trying to do what they need to do or want to do you. they're not gonna really,
But it's we dealing with of course.
yeah, we're gonna be, yeah. So it's the same thing all around.
You know, like we would want it to work, you know, like that. Yeah, you can just switch, you know. But going back to the thing, you know, occupation, you know, corporate governments posing as de jure. Within that, all the different positions being corporate positions, none of them de jure. None of these people having oaths to office and all that stuff. But then we're saying we're gonna go to them for something. Well, they don't have an oath or anything like that. They're not even legitimate. Why don't we look within and build our stuff up? You know what I mean? You know. So that way we don't have to be dealing with them with certain things, because the remedy is gonna be us recognizing it. The remedy is us recognizing who it is that we are and the powers that we have as a people, as a nation, right? Again, you know, you get 50 Moors to put their name on a class action and then sue whoever, they're probably going to block it, because they already know if one gets through, they're over. If one suit gets through, then that means anybody could file that same suit right there and get through anywhere. Anywhere they're at, that's the precedent now. They're not letting that stuff happen like that. It's not going down like that. If it was going down like that, it would have went down like that already. Because ample Moors have filed suits. And these people are still here. Right? They got how many different organizations, groups, and all that stuff came together to say they're suing Google and suing all these people for violating their rights and all that stuff, stealing their info and all that stuff. And all these people still out here? Google's still out here? Facebook's still out here? TikTok, all that. They're supposed to be stealing people's stuff. And they got sued and all that. And they're still out here? Obviously, you're not finding remedy in those places where you think remedy is there. Obviously, there's no remedy there. You know, but this is part of, again, going back to, this is where it's at, being that we woke up from the sleep and the house is already burning. Right? You woke up from the sleep, the house is burning, it's probably best to get out the house. Don't talk about we're fixing sandwiches and stuff like that, and it takes something to go. Whether you take the window, whatever, you probably want to get out the house ASAP. You're not gonna sit around in the burning house playing games. Right? This is where we've been led to. So going back to Belafonte and Martin Luther King, and they're telling them to let our people into a burning building. And if your leader's telling you that, then why would anything be different with anything else? Why wouldn't anything else be looked at just like that? Are the leaders let us into a burning building all across the board? Whatever venue, is financial venue, all the people look like us that have finance, they dropped the ball because they didn't let everybody know what was up. Everybody who knew how to do something with their hands in industry or whatever like that, they dropped the ball because they didn't pass the stuff on. And then now you can't even find an auto mechanic class or whatever. That used to be in school. You had auto class, you had drafting, you had architecture. Do you have those stuff anymore? Everything is digital right now. Right? You had woodworking. You know, you used to have to draft your stuff that you're gonna make and all that stuff. They don't got that anymore. Right. So all across, there's been this slowly taking away. Oh, they didn't say nothing when he took that. All right, we'll take a little something else. Oh, they didn't say nothing when he took that. Oh, we'll take a little something else. And then they took it, and now you're left with a skeleton.
Back home in so-called Jamaica, there they have it. In the same time, you have the Catholic Church, St. very close to the hospital. And the Marcus Garvey Secondary, before it was secondary, then they call it high school. St. Anthony High School, they call it Marcus Garvey, because that's Marcus Garvey Secondary now.
Mm.
In the corner from there is a Catholic school. The school first, then it passed to go to the church, and then after that. From there now, you have the Columbus statue. And there's an empty corner over the other side from the statue. In Monday time, he built one of those schools, Mason, mechanic, carpentry. I went there for industrial woodworking.
Yeah.
Home economics, electrical, mechanic, plumbing, all this.
Yeah.
That the building is still there.
Yeah.
And now they wiped that out. Wow. I don't know what's there now. Maybe some other game playing there, but they stopped. I was crazy when I went back and I see what they did with the school. Mm-hmm. All the trades right there in that circle. Now it's out, like he's saying, that's out. It's out.
Yeah. Reading, writing, arithmetic.
I remember in high school, they used to indirectly encourage children not to take trades, you know? And there's a stigma around students who are studying trades. It was like, oh, well, that's because they can't do math properly, they can't read, they're illiterate, and they're, you know, special. So, but those are the true life skills that they were.
That was learning to be self-sufficient, right. Like you'll be independent in your, in employment.
That's
you're
right.
able to work for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they realize that, hey, you got all this, all these guys
You know
are
that
working
thing?
for themselves.
Yeah.
So they're slowly coercing us into becoming, as opposed to learning how to be self-sufficient and autonomous. They're teaching us how to be the minions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then because we were the best at it, then that's how the unions came in,
right,
to lock us out. So now they could run those trades.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of us starting up our own union, we were trying to get in there.
We can't see the picture. Yeah? We don't see the picture.
Say that.
They can't see the picture. We got the picture. Then we get in it.
Yeah.
Yes, I gotta remember that. Still this.
Sleeping more.
Yeah. Quick excerpt. Yeah. Should be able to go through some of this. This is the Venus Blueprint, Uncovering the Ancient Science of Sacred Spaces by Richard Merrick. The Venus Blueprint. Page 144 from the chapter The Lost Name. In England, the name Americ, Amerike, originates from Ap Merrick, Moric, Muric, Merrick, and Merrick, Mericke, Merrycke, Meurich, Meurig. All are etymologically connected to the earliest recorded ruler of Britain named Beli Mawr, Mawr, around 100 BC. My own surname, Merrick, is part of this lineage, having a coat of arms featuring a Merlion, the mythical half-lion and half-sea creature. This in turn ties to the mythology surrounding the famous sorcerer Merlin and the legends of dragons living beneath whales. Once again, we are reminded of the Merovingian birth of the Quintor, sea dragon, and its symbolic connection to the European royal families. The French form of the name is Maurice, taken from the Roman name Maurius. An even older form of this seafaring name can be found in ancient name for Egypt, Tameri. Loosely translated to mean of the pyramid, Patamera meant land of Mary, or land of the pyramid. In reference to the left eye of Egyptian sun god Horus, the name Merukut meant measurer, as was used to refer to the moon. Variations of Mary, such as Mera, Maura, Mura, are all a direct reference to the ancient name Mr for the Great Pyramid. This in turn referenced the sacred Mount Meru, the land of Amaru, descended from Vedic cosmology. Thus, the Meru legend is at the bottom of all the names, including the names given by the Native Americans to their own land. From the etymology of Meru, we can easily see how the Rig Veda made its way around the world. The early migration of the Aryans southward introduced the Meru legend to its Vedic sky gods to Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and China, which were then brought back into Europe by the Danites. At the same time, the legend was carried across the Atlantic by Proto-Phoenician mariners and given to the continent under the sea. This is the fundamental story of human civilization from which everything we see today originated. Now, to be fair, this is not the only path taken by the Rig Veda and the Meru name. Variations of the name traveled with many different people along often circuitous routes at different times in history. For example, the people who migrated across the Mediterranean into Spain from North Africa were known as Moors or Moorish, a name meaning dark, think moon and night. They came from Moroccan cities such as Marrakesh, meaning land of God, and Mauritania, both located beneath Atlas mountain range of Egypt. It was this way for the dark. In this way, the word for dark was likely taken from these dark people's beliefs in Meru and corresponding with the Egyptian root Mr. We can say the same about Meru as a name in India. The Mauryan Empire was first unified the entire Indian subcontinent 340 BCE, was named after Chandragupta Maurya. In this case, the emperor's name is believed to have originated from Maurya, Moriya, or Maurya, after his presumed homeland on Mor Hill, Mor Hill. Scholars consider this hill to be another reference to the sacred mountain of the Rig Veda. In the end, we always arrive back where we began. The Proto-Vedic people from Armenia who spread their cosmological theory of the harmony around the world. It matters not which namesake we choose for America, as all paths lead back to Meru. This is what St. Clair and Hay were trying to tell the world with their little chapel in the Scottish Pentlands. Huh?
Meru.
Meru.
That's all it says here. It all goes back to movie.
Always.
Where did you say that started in? What page was it?
Huh?
What page?
144. One 44. Page 76. Son of the Sun. One thing I especially wanted to see during my visit to Roslyn was the set of 8 dragons carved around the base of the prince's pillar. As the pillar representing Solomon, these serpent symbols identify him as the son of the sun. Indeed, serpents are a very old symbol for the sun, and so personified Solomon as the man of soul. Angels are also part of Solomon's legend. There are stories throughout the Talmud and Midrashim about Solomon being aided in building his temple by angels, though not by choice. These angels were said to have magically lifted and placed the heavy stones needed to build the temple. Some people suggest that they moved into place by acoustic means, either by a chanted spell of magicians, by song, by striking it with a magic wand, or some combination of trumpets, gongs, lyres, cymbals, or whistles. Given the importance of sound to early religion, we cannot help but wonder if sound might have been used in some way. In his book, The Bridge to Infinity, Bruce Cathy recounts a story that he says originated in a German magazine. The story tells of astonishing feats of levitation accomplished by priests in a monastery high in the Tibetan Himalayas, using 13 drums and 6 trumpets set in an arc of 90 degrees in front of a cave 63 meters from a large stone slab. The monks were able to levitate 5 to 6 slabs of rock per hour, each 1 meter wide by 1 1/2 meters long, transporting them to a position 500 meters away. If this were indeed a true account, the cave would have been used to amplify and focus the sound. So yeah, the Venus blueprint goes in, going off. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I noticed in the chat, someone asked a question what Canaanland did to free themselves from the colonizers.
We can go around if anybody has anything on that. One of the things that we would put out is recognizing that this is everybody's. This is not some individual's thing. This is everybody's. And on top of that, giving people the longitude and latitude to research and study and find out whatever they're going to find out, because it's their walk that they're going to take. Individuals have walked from wherever to their destination, had no issues, and other individuals have had issues to deal with. It's all part of the journey. So, when we say, or when we ask, what was done to free themselves, that's restricted to what that individual did, because not everything somebody did is going to apply to every Moor. Because that Moor over there did whatever and his paperwork said this, and that doesn't mean that you're going to take it and it's going to work like that. it's going to be more trial and error to figure out how you're going to be free. Like there's Moors who we know that their freedom is based on them having a nationality card and a license, and they don't got issues, and that's just what it is for their situation. You know what I mean? Their freedom isn't, well, I need my own plates and I need my own this, and that's not where their freedom is at. You know what I mean? Because everybody's at a different place on the path. The guy who, for example, has 8 million in tickets, he's probably not going to want to deal with a license. You know what I mean? If that's where it's at prior to coming into this, then they're probably not looking at a license ever again. They're going nationality card as everything that, as far as ID for them. You know what I mean? Which they're not wrong in that position either, right? If you know the background of them claiming that you owe 80 million in tickets is because they did fraud, then you're gonna act accordingly. You know what I mean? With dealing with those people. So, but we'll put it out there. Anybody else have any thoughts on or perspectives on what they did as far as to be free out here?
Let's not talk a little piece into what you say. The fraud that with the license is that you're not doing commercial. You're not getting paid. Well, if you were getting paid to do it, then you need a license. But they're making us using the license as a driver, but not getting paid and not knowing that we're not. So they commit a fraud too, and the people. They're extracting money from them when they have them.
Mm-hmm.
The question that they're asking is like, my conclude or my understanding is that person's asking it, like trying to get an external thought, like it's all internal. Like you said, don't even have no interactions with these people. Like, just study with the prophet.
Live your life. You don't need them. It's a training that we have to interact with them. We've been conditioned to think that they have to be in our life in some way, shape, or form. We need to go to them, the quote unquote government, the quote unquote financial institutions, the quote unquote educational institute, that we have to go to them for something. It's a conditioning that we have, that so when we start saying, well, we'll do our own thing, our people still want to talk about dealing with them. Well, we should be able to. Well, if you're not behind bars right now, and you're out here, then you're free to do what you know what I mean. What you will better be in line with the principles, better be in line with righteousness, better be in line with nature. It better not be some wayward stuff that you think you do your own thing or whatever. But again, like we should be looking at whatever mistreatment that we're getting as judgment for not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
So I was just gonna say, like, even when I was locked up, the year that I was in,
Exactly.
like that, whatever it is, from the other life, like life before that, whatever, that's how I was looking at it. Like, so that person asking the question, when you got to free yourself, it's all like internal, right? Because even when I was locked up, just reflecting, like, even when I was locked up, I was still thinking, like, I'm free, like, in my mind, like, whatever, like, they did what they did, they sentenced me, they said because they were going to do it regardless, right?
Right.
They're frauds, right? They're corrupt, that's what they do, right? So then, just having that, that thought that all is mind and all is mental, that's a powerful thing to have that. They try to take that away from us every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So now we're thinking external and we're not even thinking internal anymore. mean, so it's all internal, you know. Just make your own freedom, make your own peace internally. Even though I was locked up physically, I was still like, you know, like I still felt like I was out there, you know.
Yeah.
I wish it could be out there, but you know, like having the literature, you know, to me and stuff, it taught me how to, you know, get to that state of, you know, mental perspective.
Yeah. The place where you can at least get out of what you're in. Whatever it is.
Whatever. I came out, I still people are like, yo, what? You just came out and you're just, you know, what? Life is normal for you again. You're working like nothing happened. You're not, like you're not crazy.
It's supposed to,
It's all mine, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not one of them. You were like, you know, the regular ones when they come out, their mind is messed up.
Yeah.
So that's why they were acting.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mental too.
So yeah, and it says that because the person was asking in the chat, like, what has Canaanland Moors done to separate themselves from the corporate jurisdiction?
Yeah.
It's the duality, right?
Yeah. I mean, because it's not separate like that. In that how they're looking at it, you know what I mean? Like the fact that we're under occupation is why we're dealing with them. We're not dealing with them because they're who they say they are. We're dealing with them because they're occupying our land. So we got to deal with them. Like that's just what it is. We got to deal with them. They're not going nowhere. They're not leaving.
With our forbearance,
Yeah.
there was an agreement. They didn't just come, whatever happened,
Right.
But there was a kind of an agreement.
Yeah, there was something there. Yeah. There was some type of relation there. You know what I mean? So based on that relation, they have certain obligations. But if we don't call them on their obligations, they're not going by them. They're gonna do what they want to do because they're occupier. They're not legitimate. They're not righteous people. They're criminals.
And another thing, because sometimes people seem to think the Moors is a different tribe or a different kind of people. How come you're Moors?
Yeah.
I just simply tell them, you see the same people they call black,
Yep.
Negro, colored, minority, all those are Moors.
Yeah.
Even in Jamaica they call them maroon, all those are
Moors too. Yeah. They call it Arawak. All those are Moors.
All those are Moors. If you want to know who really is a Moor, all those are Moors.
Because I was explaining that same thing to my cousin, because you know the family.
Yeah, and make you think you're going into some cult or into some.
Antonio Banderas
Yeah.
is a Moor.
Yeah.
You're like, I say, you see now? Now, if we all know what nationality, you see this problem we have with this color thing, it's gone. It's gone.
Right away.
Right?
Right away.
So now we see each other as a nation together, one nationality. So then I said, when you get it, you figure it out. But just because, like I tried to beat it in the head, you know, so they can get it and show me this color thing. You know, as I just said, they turn us into Creole.
Yeah.
So I sent that to one of my cousins in the States and said, I see she's putting up and she's sending it out to people. And I'm like, that is nice.
Yeah.
She's Shabazz, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, for real.
She changed her name to Shabazz.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, you got it.
She's on in the right direction now. Yeah. Question in the chat: If one has gotten a license prior to knowing that they were waiving their rights by doing so, what are they to do with or about that license after gaining that knowledge? They keep that license. They hold it because they don't have the knowledge yet, right? So you found out about Moorish nationality, you have a license. And you find out that license is a fraud and naming all capital letters, oh my God. Yeah, you don't throw the license away. You put the license right here and you keep studying while you still have the license. I don't know how long that's. I don't know how long it's gonna take. Right? Because you're not out of it yet because you don't know it. You're not out of it yet because you might still need a license for something.
It's okay to have.
It's not evil talisman or something like that. It's not a bad luck thing because you have a license. You know, the mindset that people go with it is, you know, with this thing that everything's out to get them type of thing. You know what I mean? That's not, it's a piece of plastic. It's not that serious. That's all. It's a piece of plastic. It's not going to bite. It's not going to do anything to you. It's not going to attack you while you sleep or nothing like that. Don't worry. It's a piece of plastic. Right? You keep that there and you study while that's there. And the more knowledge that you get, you're eventually going to get to the part where you're going to know what you're going to do with this thing. Somebody can't tell you, do this with it. You're going to know, okay, this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to throw it away, give it back, cut it up, burn it, keep it. You know what I mean? They might need to rent a car and they don't need a license. Well, yeah, at least you got something you could give them and then you get the car, do whatever it is that you're going to do. No, go ahead, Nora.
One thing I wanted to put out there too, it goes back to learn to live within contract.
Yep.
Because everything is an agreement. I have that contract too with them before I even know that I was a Moor. And I have mine now, can show you where I reserve my rights in it.
Yeah.
I reserve my rights in it. And now that I'm a Moor, I could use this faithfully if you give me a van to deliver packages.
Right.
I could do that job. Take your man, you pay me, I go deliver packages. Drive all day, deliver packages. That's when I would need this. After that, I don't need it because I'm not driving now. So nothing is wrong with a license, but it's to know.
Yeah.
And when you get it, you reserve your rights with that contract. So if push comes to shove, you could say, yeah, I used it yesterday to do commercial, but today I'm not doing no commercial. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I went to get it too, I was wearing two hats, two tam. They told me, sir, you gotta take that off. You can't take a picture like that. I said, no. Whatever you see, that's me.
Yeah.
Whoever you see, that's where you're gonna see all, anywhere you go, you're gonna see me like that.
Yeah.
And there it is. There it is. It's expired now, but there it is. I'm just showing you why, and I reserve my rights on it.
Yep.
Like it's in me not knowing
Yeah.
to reserve my rights. Then
Yeah.
you come find out, oh, you did the right thing.
Right.
So like it's in you. Back then I should have a fez on it, but it's not.
Yeah.
You didn't know. And see, for whatever reason I had it with me now.
Right.
Today I had it. For whatever reason I don't know. Because it expired 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and then that's across the board with all the different instruments.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, it's you know, if you know how to live within contracts, you realize that thing doesn't make you.
No.
The license, the SIN number, the health card, the whatever, that has nothing to do with the physical specimen.
Exactly.
That's a piece of plastic. It has nothing to do with anything. I don't care what picture's on it,
No.
what name's on it.
No.
You could swipe it or whether you got to punch it and stuff. All of it doesn't matter. It's a piece of plastic. That's all.
Comes back to you, the individual.
It's a good point. I was dealing with back a few years ago. I was dealing with a consulate, Jamaican consulate, asking me they're asking me, what's your nationality? I'm telling them I'm North American. And so they're asking me, they're not telling me, they're not going by what's on the paper. They're telling me, they're asking me what I am, So like he said, the paper doesn't make you for them to determine who you are.
Even though it's on the paper, they're asking you.
They're asking you who you are. You gotta determine, now it's up to you.
Yeah.
Where are you mentally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be a corporate board or are you gonna be someone that's free, So it's all, like you said, the paper don't make man.
It's like with our estate. This is our estate. Look, did we know that it's North America, South America, Central America, the Abjanian Island, Caribbean Island, cross the river Nile, North West Africa, South Africa. Did we know that there was so much? Not all of us know that it goes on the other side too.
Right.
So if it's your claiming, so all these things you gotta know. Your property borders or boundaries or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all our stuff. Cross the river Nile too. Not only over here.
Yeah.
That's all, like when you know what's yours.
Exactly.
Those are like basic things to know.
Yeah.
You gotta know your yard or your yard state. It's your yard.
Yeah. Yeah. Before you talk about, buying, whatever to put in the yard.
Yeah, to put in the
Yeah,
yard.
yeah.
You gotta know the yard.
Yeah, you can't buy something bigger than the yard to put in the yard. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, like you're saying too, it's like a voluntary thing.
Yeah.
Because they know majority of the time when they ask you, the paper doesn't determine who you are. They're gonna ask you. For the most part, they already know where the mind's at with people. They're gonna give up their rights.
Yeah.
They already know that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a voluntary thing. So they never try to say it was them that say it was you that did it to yourself.
Right. Exactly.
We ask you and you tell us.
Yeah. Yep. Play ourselves all the time. Regular thing. So so with somebody even brought up, well, the problem is the debt and the birth certificate and all that you can't, you're not gonna get out of debt using a debt instrument. It ain't happening. You're just gonna create more debt. If they said, exemption account, 1 million. 1 million in what? If the 1 million is not gold and silver, that's debt. You just got 1 billion debt, more debt. They added on to the debt that's already there. You know what I mean? Because you're not gonna get out of it by playing around with the debt instrument. You want a full life instrument.
Even down to that, how you say the paper doesn't make you, because people think today,
Yeah.
the paper, you gotta make the paper, but the only reason why we're making the paper is because we keep signing signatures for them to keep printing the paper.
Keep printing
Go get the paper.
Which is useless. It's nuts. Islam to all the Moors. We'll be here again. We'll be going again next week. We don't have anything. Give thanks to all the Moors who assisted today too, and everybody who's here. And online Moors Islam. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace. Freedom. And justice.
Justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. His holy prophet. No withdrawal. Islam.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Right, we come back over here. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, as I said, it's gonna be what it's gonna be is then a lot of this, they're standing on their square, which is not what they're not entitled to do. But as I said, where I think.
We're not into that. We're just saying.
I don't know, maybe they're not gonna come here. Share. No, what I would say is, where I see that this should